Hi, this is Alexis Vasolis, and I'm alongside Luke Dennison, and it's a great day to be a Dodger.
It's especially a great day for me to be a Dodger. I'm officially done with AP exams.
Didn't you only take one?
Yeah, but I've been glued to my psych textbook.
Well, you know who's not glued to their textbooks? Florida math students.
What? And they're complaining?
Yeah, Gianna and Sam are going to tell us more about this. Sam?
Over the past month, Florida has made national headlines multiple times for controversies including, but not limited to, the infamous Don't Say Gay bill, elimination of special status for Disney World, and most recently, a statewide ban on 54 math textbooks for what the state viewed as indoctrination and critical race theory.
Stay here.
Earlier, we sat down with Mr. Grunfest, the AP United States history teacher at Madison High School, to get his perspective on the recent news out of Florida.
Recently, the Florida state government made national headlines by banning 47 different math textbooks, citing what they viewed as examples of critical race theory within the pages. Today, we sat down with one of our history teachers, Mr. Grunfest, to get his perspective on the issue, as well as looking at historical precedents and what new precedents this could set. Can you start off for us by stating your name and position?
Mr. Grunfest, history teacher.
Okay.
How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for 38 years.
How often during your time as a teacher has a textbook been rejected by the
Other
school
than
board?
Galvin?
I can't remember that there ever was one that was rejected, or at least anything that I've taught. You know, you'd have to speak to somebody. Like, I don't know if they ever did that with the government textbook or anything like that, but as far as the U.S. history textbooks or the AP history textbooks,
Okay, sorry.
they've been adopted and we're still using them. So we're still using, you know, there's the one that we use for the enriched
Is this better?
classes that ends with Clinton getting reelected. So we don't really change textbooks a lot around here.
Would you be able to explain your understanding of the recent textbook ban in Florida?
The Florida and other states are concerned about, I guess, the undue influence of social and emotional learning and critical race theory and the Common Core, right, which is what the tests that you used to take were based on, and they don't want any influence from any of those in the textbooks. From what I understand, newer textbooks are starting to incorporate activities that are meant to lower the stress level for students. In other words, they incorporate mindfulness or breathing exercises, or some of the word problems have to do with people imagining, you know, and then using numbers or formulas and math and things like that. I'm not quite sure why they are objecting, or in what ways critical race theory is you know, they say is being injected into that. And then as far as the Common Core is concerned, the Common Core curriculum was meant to promote a deeper understanding of math. And from what I've read about what's happening in Florida, since that was very difficult for parents because it was different from the way that they had learned how to do math, that it promoted, you know, quite a bit of discord in their homes, and so now they want to go back to, you know, the previous way of learning math, which is what had been taught since, I guess, the 1960s or 70s.
What kind of precedent do you think this sets on a national level when it comes to interference and censorship in education?
Well, it can be quite large, because the way the textbooks are published, you have California and Texas, and I guess more and more now Florida, as the three states where you have central control over all of the state textbooks. In other words, in New Jersey, if Madison wants to use a certain textbook, they can. If Chatham wants to use a different one, they can. You know, or you know, Camden wants to use one. But a lot of textbook publishers are now crafting their books so that they are acceptable to all of California, all of Texas, all of Florida, because if you can get into that market, you obviously can make quite a bit of money, because you're buying all textbooks for 5th grade math or 9th grade math or whatever it is for every student in the state. So this has been going on for a long time. This is not new. Textbooks and textbook censorship and textbook manipulation has been around, you know, for at least 50, 60 years because of these markets. So it does have the potential to cause problems, because essentially what you have is this institutionalization of these ideas, and then if you have large numbers of people who are being taught and using those books, they use the same vocabulary, they use the same strategies, they use the same activities, and if they're educationally sound, then you generally don't have a problem, but many times they are not necessarily educationally sound. So, I mean, I certainly remember maybe, you know, as I said, about 40, 50 years ago, the big issue was advertisements in textbooks. So there are some textbooks around that are sponsored by different companies, and they use those companies in word problems, or they use those companies as case studies, you know, in you know, business textbooks or something. So there's always been the potential for some kind of influence, and this is one of them. I mean, it's not corporate, but it's certainly ideological.
And lastly, as a history teacher, do you have any unique perspective that you'd like to share with us on the issue?
The study of history is the study of what happened, and if you don't like what happened, you can't change it. You know, you can't manipulate it. You can't use it for your own historical purposes. I mean, we're seeing that now in many different regimes. You know, in China and Russia. You know, the emphasis seems to be now on worrying that students are somehow not being educated to be nationalistic enough or patriotic enough, and I would emphatically say that that is not the purview of a history teacher. My job is not to create nationalistic students. My job is to produce students and to produce critical thinkers who look at events and can make a difference between when they're being manipulated and when they're being presented with, you know, legitimate academic arguments, you know. And so to say, well, we don't want to present information that will make anybody, according to the Florida law and I think the Texas law, any white person feel guilty because you know, of our history of racism, or that we don't want to create anguish. I don't know that anybody who studies the Holocaust who really shouldn't be anguished by what happened. And so to say we don't want to create that, or we don't want people to feel that, is misguided. You know, in its most simple form. So you have to study history because that's what happened, and there are parts of history that you're not going to like. There are parts of history that are going to make you feel uncomfortable, and they should. And there are parts of, you know, that it should, and parts of history where you might disagree, and certainly parts of history where you say, you know, USA, and that's fine as long as you see the totality of the story as the factual record. And you understand it as the factual record and analyze it as the factual record, because anything else is the beginning down the road.
Yeah, censorship is a pretty big problem right now.
Tamuzo, creator of the room, introducing the new jogger.
I totally agree.
Well, one area where censorship is particularly bad right now is Russia.
When information is hidden from the public, it can be hard to understand the repercussions of global conflicts.
Ben Preston and John Satlos looked into the history of the conflict, the threat of tactical nuclear weapons, and in order to shed light on the subject.
Обстоятельства требуют от нас решительных и незамедлительных действий.
As of filming this video, we are 59 days into Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, when people explain this conflict, they tend to start with the Russian annexation of Crimea in 2014. But the roots of this conflict go much deeper. It might be best to start off this video with a little bit of context. This Russian-Ukrainian feud has taken place for decades, even before Ukraine was its own sovereign state. Ukraine was a republic of the Soviet Union, or USSR, until its collapse when it declared independence on August 24, 1991. The Soviet Union was heavily dominated by Russians. Approximately 50% of the country was ethnically Russian, and this majority would certainly be in control of the government. Joseph Stalin took power in 1922, and although an ethnic Georgian, he understood that he needed a great Russian nationalism to strengthen his Soviet regime. His policies would favor the Russian majority of the country, while undermining the smaller ethnic groups absorbed by this larger state. Stalin implemented his first five-year plan in 1928, which planned to rapidly industrialize the Soviet Union. But he needed something to fund his project. That's when he turned to Ukraine. Ukrainian soil was perfect for growing crops, and this would be perfect for exporting to the West. Stalin understood this and did everything in his power to keep control over Ukraine and export its resources. He would centralize the collectivization of agriculture, meaning the Kremlin had direct control over Ukrainian farms and quotas, so they could control the surplus of crops to export to the West. But this wasn't enough for Stalin. To optimize control over grain production, he would set the quotas unreasonably high, leaving many Ukrainians to either starve or face punishment for stealing crops. Ukrainians would call this period from 1932 to 1933 the Holodomor, or death by starvation. Stalin would cover up this incident for decades, but it's estimated that 3.5 to 5 million Ukrainians died, just in this one-year span. This is really just one example of Russia oppressing Ukraine, and now in modern times, it makes sense why Ukrainians feel threatened by their Russian neighbors, especially now that they've invaded.
President Zelensky told CNN in an interview that the world should be prepared for Russia to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine out of desperation to quickly win the war.
Not only me, I think all of the world, all the countries have to be worried, because you know that it can be not real information, but it can be the truth.
One of the many concerns for Ukraine right now is Russia using tactical nuclear weapons. Now, when people think of nuclear weapons, they might think of massive bombs tested in the 60s that are able to level coastlines. But even though the damage of any nuclear weapon is devastating, tactical nuclear weapons are different. Tactical nukes are smaller bombs used to strike battlefield targets or assist ground troops. It's not as radioactive as a strategic nuclear bomb, or the really big ones you can see in the Cold War documentaries, which could destroy whole cities. These tactical nukes carry an explosive force of 1 kiloton, which when compared to the 15 kiloton bomb dropped on Hiroshima and the 21 kiloton bomb dropped on Nagasaki, are rather small. That's not to discredit the power of a tactical nuke either. They're extremely powerful weapons that use should be avoided at all costs. No matter how small the weapon is, its use would be catastrophic.
Now for the big question. What will the US do if Russia uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine? The Biden administration has stayed adamant about not directly fighting Russia as to not start a World War III scenario, but rather vowing to help Ukraine and other world democracies in any way it could.
Direct confrontation between NATO and Russia is World War III, something we must strive to prevent.
But this doesn't mean there have been real threats. The Biden administration threatened that NATO, and therefore the United States, would respond in Ukraine if Russia used chemical weapons, which is considered to be a war crime. Now, there has been some unverified evidence of Russia using chemical weapons in Ukraine, but the US government has more or less ignored it, or at least not, released it to the public. It's very clear that the United States wants to stay out of this war, but where do we draw the line? A nuclear attack seems like a reasonable line to draw, but a nuclear war assures mutual destruction. Right now, we can hope that Putin doesn't turn the war nuclear, and that, if so, NATO would be able to contain the Russian threat before a full-scale nuclear war ensues.
Yikes, remember when we were just worried about COVID
And murder hornets?
and different nuclear conflicts?
There's a lot to be concerned about in the world right now, but when I want to unwind and distract myself, I like to play first-person shooter games.
That certainly is a choice.
I'm really excited for Overwatch 2 to come out. They just released the first week of beta testing.
Cool, I don't know anything about that, but Will and Tristan do. Tristan?
With today marking the first day of the Overwatch 2 PvP beta being open to select players, there is no better time than to talk about the secrets of the gaming industry. When reviewing AAA games, questions arise regarding how these companies continue to release yearly games similar to their previous counterpart and get away with it. Despite the lack of new content, these companies manage to gain massive amounts of popularity and, as a result, lots of money. Let's take a look.
In 2016, the popular first-person shooter game known as Overwatch officially released to the public. After a wild ride of success, it was announced that a sequel to the game was underway, and fans took this information and ran with it. Unfortunately, promises from Blizzard, the company and the owners of the game, quickly turned into lies and false hopes. Fans eagerly waited for over 900 days since the first teaser to get a taste of the second installment. With little to no new content being added to the original Overwatch, many changes within the headquarters were revealed onto why development of the game had become so slow. Around 2 months ago, a PvP beta for Overwatch 2 was announced, and as of today, lucky players are able to get their hands on it for the long-awaited sequel. For the first time in years, Overwatch's popularity on streaming platforms like Twitch have seemed to skyrocket. With a promising game on their hands, perhaps Overwatch 2 will bring back the once incredibly large audience that the first installment had back in 2016.
Of the many AAA game developers, the two big ones are Activision and Electronic Arts, which are behind two of the biggest video game franchises, Call of Duty and Battlefield. Call of Duty is an annual franchise. It releases a similar game every year, and the top 3 best-selling Call of Duty games were from the early 2010s. The most recent Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Vanguard, had poor sales, but is still going to be one of the best-selling games of 2021 due to its large hype and massive advertising campaigns. As long as the annual Call of Duty game release makes a profit, the developers will continue to release a similar game every year. Battlefield is not an annual franchise. There have been 3 Battlefield games released since 2016, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, and Battlefield 2042. Battlefield 1 is one of the most successful EA games ever sold, selling around 25 million copies. Battlefield 5 has been less successful, selling 13 to 14 million copies. Battlefield 2042 has only sold around 4 million copies, but it has been released for a shorter amount of time, coming out in 2021. Unfortunately, on release, the game had many bugs, bad game design, and could not track player progression correctly.
Looks pretty sick, am I right?
No, I prefer movies.
Like what, The Notebook?
Yes, and also Avatar. Did you know that they're releasing the second one soon?
Weren't we like 5 when that came out?
Yes, actually, a lot of movies come out years after the first.
Nostalgia.
Neve and Sasha are going to look at this scenario in the next piece. Neve?
The movie industry was revolutionized during the recent pandemic as movie theaters were unavailable and filming was impossible with the safety restrictions. That being said, in spite of the obstacles, many studios have continued to maintain high outputs of movies. For example, throughout 2021, Marvel Studio released 9 titles both in theaters and on Disney+. In more recent news, the highest-grossing film of all time, Avatar, is returning with a sequel at the end of 2022. Avatar isn't the first franchise to return after an extended period of time between the movies. To 2 Madison students, their thoughts.
Now, we're making projects on movies that take, like, forever to, like, release sequels. So, for example, like, The Incredibles waited, like, 14, we'll fact check, but, like, off the top of my head, like 14 years to release a sequel.
That's wrong.
So, in your opinion, when a studio releases a sequel years down the line, does that make you more excited? Does it like ramp up feelings of nostalgia? Or not interested?
It certainly builds up the hype. Because, you know, it's like a whole lot of years, and like, especially if the first movie was good. Like, I personally really like The Incredibles as a kid. Like, seeing Incredibles 2 come out was just like sick. I was just gonna like see them. But like, at the same time though, if it's like not a really good movie, like I really like Incredibles 2 a whole lot. Yeah, it's just like just it's just like it's for life.
So Avatar is coming out in December. Do you think that you're gonna make an appearance in the theaters when it comes out, Avatar 2?
Yeah, most of it.
So you're on Ben. So the last Top Gun movie came out when?
I think it was like 1986.
And they're releasing a new one like this year? Or?
This year, this summer. Yeah.
So
it's called Maverick.
You know what else is a Maverick? Logan Paul's bird's name. Anyways.
Thank you. All right.
Anyways, would you say that like the time difference between the movies is making you like more excited than if it had come out like the next year after release?
100%. It's all about nostalgia.
That's literally the answer we wanted. So thank you.
That was pretty incredible.
You know what else is incredible? Spending spring break with your friends.
A lot of people were unable to do that this year, seeing as our spring break was 2 weeks earlier than all surrounding schools.
Yeah, why was that?
I don't know, but Lee and Celeste looked into the very issue. Lee?
Thank you. Due to the increase in the difficulty of schoolwork over the winter, many students highly anticipated spring break. However, the break was a little bit different this year, as it fell 1 to 2 weeks earlier than usual. This was because the school administration wanted to allow students more time to study for the AP exams in early May. Did the administration achieve its goal? Was spring break affected in other ways? To find out, we interviewed some of the students for their thoughts on our spring break.
Did you think that the spring break was too early this year?
I mean, yeah, like it was weird that it wasn't like around Easter the way it usually is, like every year, and like other people that I know that go to other schools, their break is like now, like right after the Easter, which makes more sense.
Most people in the majority would have liked it if it was pushed back more. For me, I mean, I'm kind of torn on it. For me personally, I had some things to take care of over in that span of time. For personal reasons, so it actually landed kind of good for me. But at the same time, a lot of my friends and my step-siblings are coming over this week, and I'm busy this weekend, so I won't be able to hang out with them as much, although they're on their spring break. So it didn't really line up that well with other schools, but...
I thought it was too early this year because a lot of schools have it starting on Good Friday, and it would have been this week if we had a later spring break, and then ending next week. So I think it was a little too early because it was literally more than a month ago.
Madison School District spring break was much earlier compared to other schools. Chatham and Summit school districts had their spring break this year in the second week of April, a full 2 weeks later than Madison. This means that our spring break was unique to Madison's, since Chatham and Summit are some of the closest schools to ours. Even for our school, it was earlier than in previous years. Madison School District's originally scheduled 2020 spring break was in the second week of April, similar to Chatham and Summit. In 2021, spring break moved to a week earlier. Finally, in 2022, spring break was yet again moved 1 week earlier, with the result being a spring break in the second to last week of March.
What did you do during spring break?
Honestly, not really much. Just kind of stayed home, like did whatever like I could do around the house.
My family went to Florida, so that was fun.
I was helping out at my dad's house because he moved.
What do you think of the weather during spring break?
I think it was kind of sunny, so that was nice, I guess.
Well, I can't really speak for the weather here in Madison, but in Florida it was only in all the 70s, so I mean, it was warm.
I was in Pennsylvania. It rained or something really hard while I was gone.
Yeah.
That's what people told me, and I only felt it a bit coming back. But like, Pennsylvania was nice. It's not that far from Jersey, so I assume it was around the same though. The weather was fine. But the weather's like really hot more recently now, so I guess people would have preferred to have it probably this week because the weather's like way hot, and I'm dying going to school.
Did you do any work during the break, like homework?
I mean, I did some homework for school, and then some work I had to do outside of school. Like, I did mostly the work outside of school because I have a lot of that.
I did all my work before the break, so no.
No.
Well, at least kids from Hanover Park weren't around during our spring break.
Why is there so much animosity there?
I already put my 2 cents into that in the next video. Tyler and Luke explored the history of the rivalry.
Today we will be taking a deeper look into the greatest rivalry around, the Madison vs. Hanover Park rivalry. When you're from Madison at a very young age, the tension between HP and Madison is ingrained in you. We will be looking at 3 sports in this rivalry: football, girls soccer, and baseball. In this segment, we talk to 3 members of the Madison High School football team who have a great view of this matchup. We hope you enjoy the inside scoop of the epic rivalry Madison High School is a part of.
A bit to show me. What are you guys saying for your voice?
All right, so today we're here with 3 student athletes: Joe Carfana.
Hello.
Luke Dennison. And Ian Riley.
Hi.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the Madison HP rivalry. What does that mean to you? What does the Madison Hanover Park rivalry mean to you?
Well, I don't see it as much of a rivalry as more as they are just so jealous that they're not as good as us. So I don't really see it as a rivalry.
Okay.
Coaches are very similar to the players in the fact that they're all hotheads and don't know how to control themselves, and that it's so interesting to just watch them unravel as the game goes on. So I think that's very interesting.
Playing on the biggest stage in our school, being all three of you are football players. That's I mean, Madison, some people say is a football town. So what's it like playing on the big stage against HP?
Well, for us, HP is just another game, but for them, it's kind of interesting because they literally will spend their entire offseason, entire year, getting ready to play Madison. For us, it's just another game. So, just say in regards to that.
It's like, this is high school football right here. It's two teams that really don't like each other. One has class while the other doesn't. So, it's always interesting to see.
Going off of that, like, what's the atmosphere playing in front of your whole school and a Hanover Park town that just absolutely hates everyone from Madison? What's the atmosphere like?
Well, we love having our student section get into it. Gives just having a lot of just positive energy, because everything that comes from the opposite sideline is just so negative. Even the parents, nobody has class, so I think it's just nice for a town who actually can sit down, enjoy a game without getting too involved and being like, oh my God, we get to play Madison. This is the biggest moment of my life. I don't know. I think it's nice that we have a student section who respects other teams and our players and opposing fans. And I just think that's the atmosphere is just a lot better for us.
Denny or Luke? Or Denny or Ian? Mafia man.
Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry.
What's the atmosphere like playing in this rivalry game?
Electric.
Thank you.
You did have a lot to say about that topic, and I have a lot to say about this topic, the prom.
I'm pretty excited. I got snubbed last year by COVID restrictions. I wasn't even allowed to go. Seniors only.
This year, all restrictions are lifted. It will be held at the Valley Regency.
Sounds like an actually formal event.
Well, Sydney and I looked into how to budget for the prom. We tried to see how formal we could get with just $100. Let's take a look. Hi guys, I'm Alexis Fasolis, and today we'll be going to the mall to try to find things under $100 for prom. We are heading to the Short Hills Mall to try to find a prom dress, jewelry, shoes, makeup, and hair products all under $100. Now let's head into the mall to see how I do. Now we enter into prom heaven. Look at all these beautiful prom dresses. Some are way out of our budget. This one is $258. All these dresses are over $200, clearly not in our budget. When shopping on a budget, the clearance section is your best friend. Let's grab some dresses and see how they look. Off to the fitting room we go. I think I found the one. Now let's go downstairs and find some shoes. What beautiful shoes, but they don't fit in our budget. Way too much. You could never go wrong with a good pair of black heels. You may even have these in your closet. Let's scan the jewelry to see what we can find. Nothing good in the jewelry section. Let's see what I can borrow at home. Peace out, Short Hills Mall. Take advantage of the things that you have at home that can make you look pretty at prom. Don't forget, you can always borrow jewelry. I found some pieces that worked. Now let's complete this look with some hair and makeup. I don't have enough money left for a professional to do the look, but I do have enough money to buy a new product. Bang! And here's the look. I'm ready for prom under $100.
I'm definitely gonna blow that budget. It takes a lot of time and money to do my hair.
Yeah, you need it.
You know what I don't need? Talent.
I'm not sure how true that is, but MHS does have a lot of talent.
And it was on display in last week's talent show. Ian, Joe, and I took a behind-the-scenes look at the MHS talent show. Take it away, Joe.
Here, wait. Hello, hello. Purple Minion Production.
It's Christian on the beat.
The annual MHS Talent Show is going to be hosted on Tuesday. But today, Purple Minion is here to show you how talented MHS really is.
If you guys were in the talent show, what would your talent be?
Beatboxing.
Can you give us an example?
Probably singing.
Sing a little something.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder.
Yeah.
Probably like being sexy, something like that.
Same.
If I was in the talent show, my talent would be just being Rona McGinn. Honestly, that's enough talent. You know,
That's a valid answer.
That's enough talent.
That's
I would just stand there.
If you were in the talent show, what would your talent be?
I'd like to think of myself as a really good exotic dancer, and I can also juggle.
If you guys were in the talent show, what would your talent be?
Singing, hula hooping,
juggling. I would juggle with Bridget.
Brooke, what about you?
Hula hooping.
What's your talent?
I'm actually a really good dancer.
If I was in a talent show, I would do Fortnite dances because I'm good at Fortnite dances.
What's your talent?
Making subs.
And giving out free drinks.
Yes. Throwing down cheesesteaks on the grill.
First of all, check the drip. All right, so talent show's next week. What's your talent?
Bro, I got nothing. I'm sorry. I got nothing.
Damn. What's your secret talent for the talent show?
I like crayons. Caffrey, if you had a talent in the talent show, it could be anything, any talent in the whole world, what would it be?
Piano.
Really? If you were in the talent show, what talent would you do? What would your performance be?
I like dancing. Like, oh, I'm a singer, bro. Trust me.
What song you singing though?
I don't know. It depends what kind of mood I'm in, though.
What mood are you in right now?
Turn me up, Joe. End of the week.
That was pretty good.
I love the end. It was a good show.
And that brings us to the end of our show. From G50, I'm Alexis Fasolis.
And I'm Luke Dennison. It's a great day to be a Dodger.